sky over Ethgard didn't just break. It vanished under a wall of white heat. When the sovereignty fleet fired on the northern spire, the sound didn't travel through the air. It traveled through the ground. A bone-deep vibration that rattled teeth and shattered glass 1,000 miles away. In 3 seconds, an entire continent was reduced to a blackened smear. It was a demonstration, cold and calculated. The galaxy thought they were buying cattle. They bought a plague of wolves. Elias Thorne didn't look at the sky. He looked at Leo. The holographic draft lottery flickered in the dusty cellar, casting sickly green light over his brother's trembling hands. Leo was 19, a gardener, soft in the ways that mattered. When the screen flashed his serial number, the silence in the room became its own kind of weight. The sovereignty didn't care about potential or skill. They wanted numbers, warm bodies, 150 million human meat grinders for the void. Elias had lived through the border skirmishes. He knew the shape of a rifle, the taste of starvation. He grabbed Leo's shoulder, grip tight enough to bruise. No discussion, just a quick, frantic walk to the underside of the city, where the laws didn't reach. The clinic was a hole in the wall, lit by flickering blue strips. The surgeon didn't ask questions. He took the credits and prepped the data slug. The identity swap procedure violated everything natural. When the needle slid into Elias's skull, he felt his history being overwritten. His biometric signature twisted and groaned. Hot lead poured into his veins. Nanites reconfigured his dermal markers to mimic Leo's. Sweat stung his eyes. The machine hummed a low, predatory tune. He wasn't Elias anymore. To every sovereignty sensor in every data log, he was the younger brother, the one not meant for war. The morning of the collection was cold. The air carried the sharp scent of scorched earth from the distant north. Thousands of young men and women stood in the transition zone, guarded by hulking, multi-limbed enforcers. The aliens regarded them with detached boredom. Humans were resource units, not sentient beings. Silas stood at the perimeter fence. The old man's face was a map of deep lines, sun-beaten and weathered. No tears, luxury Ethgard couldn't afford. He pressed a small, smooth stone into Elias's palm. A piece of the spire's coastline, saved before the fire. Piece of home. Their eyes met. A silent agreement. A passing of the torch. Then the transport ship doors hissed open. Inside was dull gray metal and freezing mist. Elias moved with the crowd, boots thudding on the ramp. Massive engines vibrated through his feet. Windowless ships smelled of stale oxygen. They expected obedience. They discovered human spite. Ethgard gave its children to the stars. The stars weren't ready to keep them. The sky turned from blue to bruised purple, then to the absolute black of the void. Elias sat in the dark, heart beating a steady, rhythmic promise. He wasn't cattle. He was a contagion, and he was heading straight for their throat. Gravity on Vora 4 felt like a fist pressing him into the red dust. Every breath a labor, every step a slog through thick mud. Sovereignty handlers watched from pressurized pods. Four-eyed faces twisted in what passed for amusement. Their calculations expected 80% mortality. They wanted the expendable to snap. They hadn't accounted for the evolution of Ethgard survivors. Elias scanned the training field. His unit was a collection of scarred faces and hollow eyes. Children the stars weren't supposed to keep. The first wave of automated drones shrieked from the hangars. The sovereignty expected panic. Instead, silence. Elias raised 3 fingers, the signal they'd practiced in the lightless corners of the troop transport. The pack defense was a blur of calculated violence. Humans didn't scatter. They bunched together, forming rotating walls of interlocking fire. Drones didn't find terrified targets. They found a coordinated strike team tearing components apart mid-dive. Momentum and crushing gravity turned into weapons. The drones didn't fail. They were annihilated. Observation pods went silent. The sovereignty panicked. Deployment to the front lines came faster than scheduled. Humans were packed onto a heavy cruiser bound for the Galactic rim, intended as cannon fodder. Elias clutched the piece of coastline, Silas's stone, Leo's trembling breath. The rebellion didn't start with a shout. It started with a blackout. Drop bay doors cycled open over the war-torn surface. Humans didn't descend. They turned. Using the sovereignty's own boarding pikes and scavenged thermal charges, they moved through the ship like a fever. Shielding? Advanced systems? Irrelevant. Human spite was evolution in motion. Elias led the charge through primary ventilation shafts. Heat from the core sang in his hair. Fatigue didn't exist. Only the weight of the stone in his palm. They hit the bridge like a tectonic shift. The Sovereignty commander, spindly, wet parchment skin, scrambled to activate internal turrets. Too late. Elias was across the room, hand closing around the commander's throat. Eyes bulged. Frantic clicks echoed. Fleet-wide panic screams went across the stars. They hadn't drafted infantry. They had armed a predator that didn't yield. Elias stood at the bridge center, boots planted. He looked at the stars, not captive, but captain. Navigation logs lit up under his fingers. He didn't set course for the rim world. He set coordinates for the Sovereignty home system. The galaxy thought they were buying cattle. Elias Thorne was about to show them what happens when wolves come.